Hey everyone, welcome back to New England Next Gen, where we cut through the noise and we look at the facts with transparency, honesty, and a little bit of critical thinking. No, a lot of critical thinking, right? So today we're taking on a statement that gets thrown around a lot, especially here in Massachusetts. Governor Maura Healey said this week, disease prevention is not political. The Trump administration and RFK Jr. are making it political. This is science. And listen, you know, that sounds great and all, but the moment you investigate the history of American healthcare and even the founding fathers, the receipts say the opposite. Are you ready, guys? Because if disease prevention is not political, then American history has a lot of explaining to do, right? And I know some of you guys, done the research. I'm sure you're like, oh my gosh, here she is. She's going to start on the history of this. It's like almost conspiracy theories at this point. So let's respond to Healy's claim. When a politician tells you something is that's not I should say this. When a politician tells you something is not political, that usually means it is deeply. And healthcare is one of the most political industries in the United States, not because medicine is political, but because the decision making around it has always, like big caps, always been political. And ironically, right under Governor Healey's post, there was a perfect example of that. So, I went through the post and I was looking at the comments, and one of my friends who's she does, I think it's Health Rights Action Mass. She's like a civil rights activist for healthcare, and she brought up a point on this, and I was like, oh, we got to talk about this. So, shout out to her. That's Julie. All right, so let's go back to the 1991 hepatitis B decision, right? In 1991, the New York Times reported how the hepatitis B vaccine ended up on the infant schedule. You know, when you have a new baby and they do the Hep B like right away. Here's the reality: Hep B is transmitted through blood, sex, or IV drug use. Infants were not at high risk, children were not spreading it, adults were actually the group actually at risk, and they refused the vaccine. So, why, or I should say, so what did the advisory committee decide? Instead of focusing on adult education or adult compliance, their solution was, it's just like the COVID vaccine. New York Times said this: if adults won't go for the shots, then we're going to give them to the babies. It's not science, not I can't even say the word epidemiology, and not infant necessity. It was a political workaround to solve an adult compliance problem. This is published in the nation's biggest newspaper, and I can actually show you the newspaper. I'll put it in maybe the comments. Um, so this wasn't just something you saw on the internet. And the thing is, this isn't just the one isolated case. The same pattern repeats over and over and over throughout American healthcare. So let's go back. So, some, right? In 1976, the swine flu mass vaccination campaign, right? In 1976, one soldier at Fort Dix died from a swine flu strain. Officials panicked and feared another 1918 pandemic with no hard evidence that it would spread. President Gerald Ford rushed onto national TV, urged all Americans to get vaccinated. Congress funded it immediately and shielded pharmaceutical companies from liability. This was political fear, not scientific certainty. I mean, they didn't even have enough info yet. 45 million Americans were vaccinated. The predicted pandemic never came, and the vaccine caused Guillain-Barré syndrome, and the entire program collapsed in embarrassment. And I can speak from experience that I actually have this syndrome. When I was young, I was, walking on a log, playing around, and I still remember I fell over and I couldn't walk again, and I was basically paralyzed in the moment. They did a spinal tap trying to figure out what was wrong, and I was able to walk again, thankfully. But it's still never been explained. But it is a side effect of that. So it's very dangerous to just take a vaccine and not know where or what it is and what it's going to cause. So, things to consider. Well, back on track. The next one was the 1955 Cutter Polio vaccine disaster. So, after years of national fear over polio, the US government wanted a victory moment. They rushed the vaccine rollout for political celebration. Cutter Laboratories produced a batch where the virus wasn't fully inactivated. The results were that 40,000 vaccine induced polio cases, 200 children were paralyzed, and 10 children died. Officials initially hesitated to halt the program, not because of science, but because it would damage public trust and political credibility. That was optics over safety in the lives of children. 3. The HPV vaccine mandate push from 2006 2010, another vaccine that I've had. The HPV vaccine prevents cervical cancer, which is absolutely true, but HPV is sexually transmitted and not spread casually in schools. Yet Merck launched one of the strongest lobbying campaigns in state politics to mandate the vaccine for middle school girls. Lawmakers later admitted that they didn't fully understand the HPV science when they voted. This wasn't about pediatric epidemiology. That was industry influence and political pressure, not childhood need. They weren't thinking about us as kids. They were thinking about what they could push as their agenda. And then one of the ones I've mentioned before, but the Tuskegee syphilis study. Sorry guys, I'm still getting used to like saying all these hard words. From 1932 to 1972, for 40 years, the U.S. Public Health Service studied black men with syphilis and intentionally denied treatment even after penicillin was proven to cure it. Why? To preserve the study, to protect funding, and to maintain institutional prestige. This is one of the strongest historical examples of the government putting politics over human life, and you see that all the time. So last but not least, I mean, there's still more. There's a few more I can go through. The Agent Orange denial, which was from the Vietnam War era. Vietnam veterans returned with cancers and several severe neurological problems. The government denied the connection to Agent Orange for decades. Why? Because admitting the truth meant liability, compensation, political backlash, military accountability, and eventually public pressure forced recognition of the damage. And then the 2009 H1N1 pandemic response. In 2009, early predictions were alarming. The Obama administration declared, I'm going to slow down a little bit, declared a national emergency before knowing the real severity. Vaccination campaigns were launched before supply even existed. By the time doses were available, the outbreak had peaked and millions of shots were discarded. And again, political urgency overtook medical timing. So it's not science, guys. I'm just telling you, Maura Healey's full of it. So here's the next one. So I want to move on to our founding fathers. Remember, I always go to what would the founding fathers do and what did they say about this? So if there's any history regarding it, and there is. So our founders understood that if government ever controlled medicine, liberty would be in danger. And Thomas Jefferson said, if people let government decide what foods they eat and what medicines they take, their bodies will soon be in as sorry a state as the souls of those who live under tyranny. And then Benjamin Rush said, unless we put medical freedom into the Constitution, medicine will organize into an undercover dictatorship. He predicted the modern medical government partnership. James Madison said, the accumulation of all powers may justly be pronounced the very definition of tyranny. And then George Washington said, government is not reason, it is not eloquence, it is force. And then John Adams said, liberty cannot be preserved without a general knowledge among the people. And then Patrick Henry, for my last quote, he said, guard with jealous attention the public liberty. They saw this coming. So I'm going to tie it all back to today, guys. I know it's a lot of quotes, but so when a leader says disease prevention is not political, we have to respond with, then why has every major public health decision in American history involved political pressure, lobbying, fear, and control? Hepatitis B at birth, right? Why would we need that? It's only spread through adults. 2, the 1976 swine flu panic, the Cutter Polio incident, HPV mandates, the Tuskegee syphilis, Agent Orange, H1N1, and then COVID, right? Every example shows the same truth. Healthcare policy is never just science. It's science in the hands of politicians. And that's the truth. So before we close out, I want to leave you with some thinking exercises. Just be honest with yourself. No one's grading you. No one's telling you how to feel or what to think. You all have to think for yourselves. That's the whole point. Um, so think of a time when a politician or agency told you the science is settled. Ask yourself, did they benefit from you not questioning it? Okay, think about that. Hmm. And second question for you guys, take any medical mandate or guideline from the past few years. Now imagine it came from the political party that you don't support. Would you trust it in the same way? And if the answer changes based on the messenger, that's not that's not science, that's politics. The third question would be, if new documents came out tomorrow proving a major health policy was driven by more politics than science, would you want to know the truth, even if it made you uncomfortable? Because wanting comfort instead of truth is how freedom disappears. This week, pick one health policy, Hep B at birth, HPV mandates, the lockdowns, anything, and read the original documents, okay? Ask yourself, does the history match the soundbite? If it does, great. And if it doesn't, welcome to next gen, right? So, no, healthcare has never been purely scientific. Not in 1955, not in 1976, not in 1991, not in 2009, and not during the COVID pandemic, and definitely not today. The founders warned us, history has confirmed it, and now our generation is saying we will not surrender critical thinking for policy, political talking points in reference to healthcare. Sorry. So thanks for listening to England Next Gen. You got to stay informed. Really look into the health documents. You got to really look into it. I can send you so much more. I'm learning so much more as we go, and stay committed to the truth, even when it makes you uncomfortable. I mean, I find out things all the time that I don't know are true or not, and then I realize that maybe I didn't know enough. And I am so thankful that there are so many people out there who study this just like me, and we find out so much more. Just from this episode alone, I had researched, and I didn't know there was even more cases. I didn't know about Agent Orange and all of those, so it's good to know. I mean, pretty much I know about the syphilis, and then I know about COVID, and they're still pushing COVID on the kids, and children are getting, they had a document come out today that like they've seen how the COVID vaccine can cause heart attacks in young children and toddlers. Like, do we really want to put the government's hands on our children's lives and let them just do whatever to our kids? No, we shouldn't. We should be protecting our people. It's our job to do that. And I mean, this is at the heart for me because I'm a mom and I don't want my children to be like, I'll vaccinate my kids. I'm not like anti-vax, but it needs to be backed up by science. So I'm not just going to do something just because it's being lobbied that it's great for us and that we need to do it. My children are not experiments. They're my children. They're my family. They're my flesh and blood, and I'll do anything for them. But that's, with that being said, if you have any comments, feel free to let them down, let them down there. Make sure you subscribe to the video. Sorry if it's a little rushed. I just wanted to make sure that I got an episode in this week. Tomorrow is going to be a huge amount of content coming onto the channel because we'll be going to the ICE facility and talking to a lot of the protesters and people who are on the both sides. And I can't wait to meet you guys, anyone who's going tomorrow. And that's about it, guys. Bye.